autocratic control. Then finally we have acknowledgement, which is related to more participative leadership. Finally, adaptation and change, which is related to innovation and resilience. So what I wanted to say is that when you study the response of Wrocław Medical University, you can see that we actually managed to bypass two first stages of crisis thanks to a strong value system and management by values. So we rather shifted to acknowledgement and adaptation basically from second day of the crisis. It was already mentioned yesterday, management by values and objectives, they are both obviously valid perspectives. However, in case of crisis, which is rapid change of the situation, rigid objectives which were set at the time of lack of the crisis, stability, they don't fit the situation. So then you have to rely more on basic values. So that's exactly what happened. So for us, empathy, solidarity, that was, let's say, more what was guiding us instead of some very, explicit objectives. Thanks to that, taking this approach, the leadership and those who helped or been really active during the crisis were not only, formal leaders, but also there have been many grassroots actions and initiatives. So that was a combination of both. So we had, on the one hand, we had pre-existing, prior to the crisis, vice rector for building relationship and cooperation with the environment, who established this team which cooperated, which aimed to Ukraine team. But we had also many informal leaders, like students, as I mentioned, interns, staff, etc. So thanks to that, they've been also meeting up very frequently. This system was flexible, focused on problem solving, and very effective. Because in this case, just to stay with hierarchical kind of leadership, formal leadership was simply inefficient. So what are the good practices which we learned from this situation? So coordination over control. From a formal leaders' point of view, hierarchical point of view, what's good to happen is to support grassroots initiatives, do not suppress them. However, what is very important, to coordinate them, to avoid chaos, redundancy, because sometimes there have been many students who had exactly the same idea or very similar idea. So wise thing to do was to contact them. You're supposed to have your own, common perspective on that, and then let's talk about it. To avoid any redundancy and causing chaos and misuse of resources. So that definitely needs coordination, but not necessarily strict control. The other good practices is related to effective communication. Like we established dedicated channels like emails, social media, hotlines, etc. And they've been, for example, also provided in Ukrainian language. Also personal meetings with city, between rectors, with students, between students, with some other scientific or medical organizations, so and many personal meetings, and this kind of open communication that was very, very helpful. Then shared decision making. I mentioned this Kruvio, as we call it. So this is this committee of rectors of Wrocław and Opole. So in each city we have many universities, but from time to time they gather together and they discuss. And many times, in modern days, between universities we have competition. Who is better? Who provides better educational services? Who is better in research? Who has more points? Etc. So here it was not competition, but cooperation. So as I already mentioned, like for example, Wrocław University was providing legal aid and linguistic aid because they had departments like that. My university, medical university, was providing medical care. Technical university, accommodation. So everyone checked what they are the best at, and that we're supposed to split our duties accordingly. Very important is safe assistance. So when it comes to health, as I mentioned, like collecting pharmaceuticals, drugs, etc., it's very important that it is done actually by professionals. Because there have been many grassroots actions that people were collecting drugs, but you know that it's very dangerous if you misuse medications. Then also support for those who help. I mean, to prevent secondary trauma. So people who provide help to refugees, who work in social services as well, many times they face secondary trauma. That they are exposed so much to, to stories of people who lost their family members during the war, or went through some horrible situations in life. When you listen to them every day as an assistant, then it is also affecting your own mental health. So therefore it's very important to provide psychological help also for those who help to prevent secondary trauma. Then data. Actually, we could use this opportunity, when I think now about it, to, for example, collect certain data about refugees, where they went, what they are doing, how they are doing, etc. However, it is very important to prevent stigmatization, yes, like that someone is a refugee, that's very important. Besides, very important is also to provide to protect privacy, personal data, etc. So sometimes, from scientific point of view, when you're in social sciences, it is great to have this kind of data, but maybe it's not the best what you can do, even though it can be tempting. But you should think about what if this data will leak. For example, to Russian services, secret services. So you need to balance what is more important. In general, we can divide two phases of crisis and responses to crisis. The first one, which I would call acute, that lasts from February to summer. So that was when we have a huge influx of those people coming to our railway station, etc. So then, very important, it's emergency. You need to provide shelters, food, medical help, etc. Then, later on, more important is long-term adaptation, integration of new arriving people to our society. And also, like that they're supposed to integrate with our society, and we should also change as a consequence. So therefore, in our university, we provided intercultural competence and sensitivity courses for students and staff. Because integration is the process which happens on two sides, not only those who arrive, but also those who receive. We also started to do research about war trauma. So now we have many projects, many grants referring to war trauma and how to prevent that, how to cope with it, etc. both at psychological but also neurological departments. So we have actually many very different scientifically projects like that. We also changed to some extent curriculum to teach about trauma as well and prevention as well. Somehow to sum up and getting till the end of the story, we can say that in this case, the short-term emergency turn into long-term transformation, because we transform our curriculum as a fact, we transform our society, which is now, you know, that we have quite big Ukrainian minority, and we need to prepare ourselves for that as well. So from, you know, more like reaction and aid, we also turn those practices in institutionalized responsibility as well. Because what are the risks? What were the risks? That after initial mobilization and that we provided the help, then when there is not an emergency anymore, that we will regress to previous status quo. So therefore, we needed to turn some of those experience into more, let's say, stable or long-term element of our policies. So therefore, as I mentioned, this cultural sensitivity training or trauma-informed care as well. We can say that our case of Wrocław Medical University is a model of social responsible, value-driven, and this crisis for us was to some extent good. I mean, like as an institution, because thanks to that we have completely new kind of research, which is very needed. We changed curricula. We also have stronger partnership with the city, with medical organizations, with Ukrainian universities. We also provide, for example, like in our museum, pharmaceutical museum, that's now open space for Ukrainian cultural organization, for example, to meet up with artists, to continue the culture, like some exhibition, presentation, etc. So they have the place, safe place that they can continue and nurture their own culture. We are more recognized in the city thanks to our activities. So it turned, that is a side effect. No one planned that, obviously, but that's simply different now. Besides this linguistic inclusion, now if a person speaks Ukrainian, it is a great asset at work. Previously it was okay, just another language, fine. Now it is a huge advantage because we have so many Ukrainian speakers in the city and the country. So that was for us on definitely a positive side. And what could happen if we never been engaged in this crisis? So we could risk a lot. Decline of our prestige, reduced social impact. Besides, of course, that could cause a humanitarian crisis, not only for refugees, but also for local community. That could be potentially devastating. Besides, if universities are indifferent to this kind of situations, which matters to people, then we are also losing relevance in modern world. Especially when we are talking about the age of artificial intelligence, which is more and more replacing universities when it comes to educational mission, when it comes to also research. So what left? So then, therefore, also this ethically guided research and education, this is what university can guarantee. Artificial intelligence, not necessarily. To get to conclusion, in crisis, university is supposed to act quickly, ethically, and inclusively. And management by values offers more, like chances for resilience and adaptivity. And higher educational institutions are quite essential these days in global challenges. And part of social responsibility is taking action during the crisis. So, just to finish, our response was case of values in actions. This values such as empathy, solidarity, that were actual values, not stated values. It was actual values of Polish people and also of medical professionals. They rooted in medical professionals' ethos to help others, to take care of others, no matter what, and offer them to everyone. This crisis was a catalysis for institutional transformation for us. We integrated ethics even more into our research, teaching, and crisis management. Thank you very much for listening. Any comments? Maybe.
Morning. Thank you very much, Agata. That was a brilliant presentation. I'm curious to know how you coped with the language differences when particularly you had students kind of coming to register in your universities and they're not speaking Polish. How did you provide language kind of education for them, or did you use another common language to help? And anyway, just
yes. So that was especially at the beginning. University was not providing any, like linguistic education. We don't have in Polish, of course. So that was definitely, like. Something we could work on more or think about it, definitely. But the thing is that Ukrainian and Polish are quite similar languages. They are both Slavic languages. So when it comes to everyday communication, you can, basically talk and be, like understood, etc. And most of the learners, they've been acquiring Polish quite quickly, thanks to their own skills and talents, and given the context that the languages are quite similar. Besides, our university provides also courses in English at English Division Department. So some of them they could enter if they don't want to learn Polish or that they simply prefer education in English. Sorry. So when it comes to medical help and psychological help, we've been identifying specialists who are bilingual or that they have at least to some extent competition understanding in those languages. So that was that was simply easier. That the languages are closer to each other.
Agata, thank you. Thank you very much for that very clear presentation. Mine is not a question, but mine is a comment relating what you've heard this morning to some of the things that were said yesterday. The first comment that I would make is that I spoke yesterday about values. And they might have felt a little bit distant from our day-to-day lives. What I get from Agata's presentation is that values were at the very centre of the action that they took. And putting those values into practice in the way that they did made this whole operation effective. Secondly, Wroclaw Medical University is a university which enjoys autonomy. Obviously, there are some limits on that. But we see here how a university used that autonomy to respond very, very quickly. Right. Next point. It was quite a busy slide with lots of words yesterday, but I indicated some of the changes that universities were having to grapple with. They were not all from Bangladesh, they were from countries all around the world. And one of them was about a decline in trust in universities and science, and some people questioning their relevance, which follows into questions as to whether resources should be given or whether as much should be given to universities. I think anybody who feels like that, who heard this presentation this morning, would say, without that university, what would the quality of the lives of those people be like? And the university should get huge kudos for doing what it has done. And anybody questioning, is it worth giving money to this university, would arise with an unequivocal yes, it is, because that feeds back into society. And my last point, I mentioned when we changed from the original Magna Charta 1988 to the Magna Charta 2020, I mentioned that all of the values remained, but what was added was an emphasis on service to society. Now, in the total project that we're celebrating with this event and sharing with you in this event, 3 of the cases, and that's because they were good quality applications, concern war situations. Right, and this is one of them. Heaven forfend that any more places in the world have to deal with war. But Agata brought out beautifully this morning the principles which had governed their action. And those principles are transferable to a whole range of situations. And I am delighted that the university managed to develop new approaches, to modify what it does, and that it itself has learned from what it has done for security. I found that to be an enormously powerful presentation, and I thank you very much indeed for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David.
All right, Agata, can you hear me? All right,
Yes.
Agata, thank you very much for a very, very intriguing presentation. And as promised, I'm here this morning just to hear your presentation. So a couple of things, because your presentation actually triggered me to wear my international relation hat as a researcher and sort of compared this, because you have mentioned there was no refugee camp, sort of compared this crisis with what we have in Bangladesh, and had been going on for some time in the context of Rohingyas. Yeah. Yours is just about 3 years, Ours is about 9 years. We have shown empathy at the beginning, value-based management, maybe not through an institutional point of view, like taking them on the dormitories and all these, but in a particular area. But then at certain point, the fund dried out. So that brings me to the intuitive question, is that how much of that value-driven thing is triggered by the fund that Poland as a country or Europe as a state, as a region could draw, and Ukraine being in the heart of geopolitics could draw and sort of provide a sort of a help for your courage to take on, and how long this can go. Do we have a ultimate end in mind that this value-based thing will continue to be sustained without even funding? Because now we are facing this in the case of refugees, of Rohingya refugees 10 years on, and that empathy, that value-based thing actually didn't yield any result from the international communities, which was funding in the initial days. So that is a particular question, and this has also, since you're a scholar, I will also put on some sort of, throw in some theoretical, conceptual stuff on it. If you read Alexander Wand, structuration theories, or even structural realism, or even the concept that the world is made of ideational and material factors, these sort of balances out that whatever emphasis we're trying to give on value must be sustained with the resources so that it does, eventually it dries out. Or even till that holding to that value is no more tenable. That's what we are seeing in most cases in geopolitics. Second question is probably much more specific to your, one of the references to, I think you were referring to Flink's model, Stephen Flink's model. Mm-hmm. What appears to me is that you are in a chronic, he has outlined 4 phases, primordial, acute, chronic, and first, the last is resolution. It seems that you are on the chronic phase of this crisis in which a value-laden approach has helped. And ironically so, in that chronic phase, Flink says, you need to show results. And you need to show, sort of validate why your value things has worked, and to draw a little bit justification, legitimacy. But without having a resolution, that means the final return of the Ukrainian refugees from your country, if the chronic phase elongates, prolongs, it is probably difficult. So would you have any thoughts on that? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. In my opinion, they are actually related to each other. So indeed, if you talk about different situations in different parts of the world, you know, like we shouldn't take too simplistic approach, yes? In Bangladesh case, it is, as you mentioned already, 9 or 10 years, right? So in our case, it's just 3 years. The first phase, as I understand, it was like that in Bangladesh and also in Poland, it is mobilization. Yes, that you mobilize your resources, you have good faith, you're trying to do your best. But at some point, sooner or later, everyone will experience exhaustion, that people are, you know, simply tired, which is related to secondary trauma, as I mentioned, which can happen on individual level, but also on some sort of societal level as well. Yes, that societies, at some point, receiving societies, the same are those who are fleeing the war zones. They are simply tired. And that's, I would say, the other type of the crisis, right? That you used certain resources, the situation is not changing dramatically, and at some point people can start, you know, losing their hopes, etc. How it will be in Poland in, let's say, next 7 years? Who knows? I cannot predict. Definitely what we can observe that we have a decline of, let's say interest or mobilization or engagement in this issue. What is more, there are also this kind of nationalistic tendencies which are on the rise, which is of course very worrying, because during a quite short time of basically 2 years, there is quite significant populational change in Poland. In case of Bangladesh, it's not the issue because of the differences in size of population. So you don't see it as from this point of view. In Poland, it can trigger more and probably, this is just my prediction, this kind of, nationalistic and negative attitudes towards Ukrainian minority, and to some extent it is already happening. However, majority of people, of institutions, and of population as well, they still keep keep on going and helping Ukrainians, and well, I guess the policy, idea in Poland is not that we shouldn't take over this population of especially young, educated people who came from Ukraine, that eventually they may go back. But you never know if that's going to happen. We simply don't know. At this point, I guess we are at the stage to simply accept and adapt to the situation that society has changed, and we have such a big Ukrainian community in our country. Yeah. And when it comes to values and resources, this is true that, to fulfill values, you need to have, obviously, resources for that. When it comes to your second question, could you repeat a bit the second? Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
To take some steams out from those nationalist forces, which likely to sort of change the status quo, thinking that this is going to be a long-term issue.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
This is fine. I mean,
yeah.
You have already
I tried to integrate the answer to both questions at the same time. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Agata. I have always liked this project, and in fact, the other three projects from Ukraine and the other one from Lithuania, which is right after this, which is related to this conflict and war, all these three. Those were, I personally really liked those research projects. What I would, it's just out of the curiosity, that is there any other university in Poland who are following your footsteps or responding as the same as you have done? In that case, it would have been, I mean, all the universities are, if they can respond in that way, the problems would have been minimized.
Yes. So answer is yes. I don't want to make a false impression that it was only my university. No, it was, actions taken all over the country. It was universities all over the country, and all kinds of institutions and regular people as well. So it was a movement, national, let's say, Yes. So it wasn't, just my case study is about particular my university, but actually it picture how it looks like, like other universities as well. So it is not only ours.
Was there any kind of national level, from the national level, any guidelines, any support, or any sort of
it was
things for the university?
They've been not maybe directly supporting, but it was, like the values or direction was exactly the same. Yes, so national government, local government, they had the same position that we should help, but how you do it, that yes. So especially like we hadn't have any guidelines what to do. It was done by shared decision making between two universities, city council, and other social actors. Thank you.
Thank you, Agata.
Thank you.
Very nice presentation about the refugee of the Ukraine. They came to Poland, and the way the medical university helped in different directions, and the past, present, and what will be in future. That also you are probably in your work. And same thing is happening in other countries. And I think you are also taking lots of data. So that may be interpreted later on. So from there we can, this is now, you just, from the data analysis, we shall be able to know more exact some ratios and relationship. And that can also help us. Mm-hmm. And it is this work is beautiful, and the world is now in the various places of the world. Countries are now in this situation. So I think it is an example so that they can also use it. So we all fight for this type of work. We come to approach to solve the problems on the refugees, social, medical, agricultural, then pollution, and then mental, and then other, and also the values. So we want to give a peace in the whole world, as you have done, Ukraine, in Poland situation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thank you, Agata, for your a wonderful presentation. Actually, this kind of presentation let us actually relate to the values that David has just mentioned, that we should go beyond academics, and the new value that has been added to Magna Carta's living values that service towards communities. And this is one exemplary actions that you have done, and we are all glad. And the world we are now, this kind of things actually make us and gives us hope that yes, we are not at all finished.